welcome to Kate's Holistic Healing. I am Kate Fletcher, your host, and you have tuned into our interactive holistic healing show where we walk you through different modalities of healing. So the emphasis on your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being is improved. I'm very happy today because I have Jim Chambers, our acupuncturist, back on today.
Hello.
And thank you very much for coming back.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, you drew a lot of interest in the last show. We got a number of people who wrote in questions.
Oh.
And so if you don't mind, one of them, which I thought was a very intelligent question, is how can putting a few needles in a person make any difference?
Well, that is a good question, a question that, comes up from time to time. The main benefit of acupuncture and actually putting needles into different spots on the body is that you end up relaxing the body. That's really the bottom line. It's a very de-stressing type of an experience. Wow. And as we'll have a demonstration today, and along the spine, there are different spinal segments, nerves that come off the spine, and those nerves go and service the organs at that level. So you have in the chest or upper back level area, basically you have the lungs and the heart. The middle, you have digestive organs, liver, stomach, spleen, and then the lower back area, you have the intestines and the kidneys. So by placing needles along those segment areas, you allow first, anatomically, you allow the muscles to relax. And when the muscles relax, the nerves relax. And when the nerves relax, they fire more efficiently. And when you have better, more efficient nerve distribution, then the organs can function better, more efficiently. And that's the basic concept.
That's very, very interesting. Now, is there some things that acupuncture is more effective on, some sort of treatments, and does it do emotional and physical?
Yes, yeah, it's very good for both. What I just described is very good for the organs. Also, you can do points on the front of the body, obviously, over the organs, and then you have the concept of the meridians or the channels, where you can affect organs at a distance. And sometimes that's very helpful because the idea is that you want to release the blocked energy or blocked chi, but you have to kind of give it some place to go, right? So you do a distal point, it kind of attracts the chi to that point. So if there's some obstruction, in your bowels, you want to be able to remove the obstruction so that the bowels can function better and give that chi a place to go.
Makes a lot of sense. And would you just tell us why it's important to have the chi flow in your body instead of stagnate?
Well, if anyone has ever been in a traffic jam, like here in Manhattan every day, when the people who live in New Jersey want to go from Manhattan to New Jersey, and you're waiting there at the Holland Tunnel or the Lincoln Tunnel, and traffic's backed up, you're in your car, you're ready to go, your car's running, it's burning fuel, right? And so what happens when you can't move, but you're burning fuel, heat is the result, stagnation. So, we would call that stagnation. So our bodies are dynamic and they're always in some type of process. Even if we're sitting, even if we're a couch potato, we're watching television, sitting on the couch, your body is in some type of process. So the idea of non-movement doesn't really exist in life.
Yeah.
So we want to facilitate a movement that is harmonized. And,
and now you did say that it helps the physical and the emotional, but what sort of emotional ailments do people come for that acupuncture helps with?
Well, in terms of the emotions, you would have, you could run the range from someone who's kind of in a depression, who may have a weighted down. This would be kind of like depression, heavy, weighted down.
Yeah.
So you want to get that stagnant energy, that emotional energy to move, so you can kind of lift their spirits a bit, so they can see things in a more positive light. On the other end of that spectrum would be someone who's kind of, you know, from in a medical way, a schizophrenic person, you know, which of course in Chinese medicine we don't deal with that particular terminology, but someone who has kind of a, you know, a flighty sense, or they have a hard time concentrating, maybe, you know, kind of out of your body type of a thing. Acupuncture is very good to anchor the spirit back in the body. And the way that acupuncture is effective for that, a lot of it has to do with the heart, in terms of encouraging the blood of the heart to provide a nourishing nest, if you will, for the spirit to come back in. A lot of insomnia issues are assessed that way from a Chinese point of view.
This is fascinating.
So yes, so the organs have spirits related to them. You know, a spirit aspect related.
Right. Okay. Are there different kinds of acupuncture?
Many.
Really?
There are many different kinds of acupuncture. Acupuncture comes from China. China is a huge country with, you know, many thousands of years of history. And originally, the Chinese medicine was kind of a shamanic type of a medicine, similar to the Native American medicine here in the West. So illness was blamed on spirits, so that you had to bring a shaman in to chase the evil spirits away. And then things developed, so not to go into too much detail, but in different areas of China, you would have different modalities, or the medicine would develop in a certain way. Nowadays, the normal Chinese medicine in terms of acupuncture is called TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine. But before the communists, when they came into power in China in the 1950s, basically kind of systematized everything. And so because they saw it more as a kind of a product that they could, you know, give to the world as a cultural part of their culture.
That's nice.
Prior to that, now we call the time prior to that as the classical Chinese medicine, which involves a bit more of the spiritual aspect of it, that practiced by the Taoist priests. So some medicine, some parts of Chinese medicine are more focused on the spirit, which is kind of a psychological connection. That's called 5 elements. And then others a bit more focused on the medical aspect, which would be TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And then kind of in between that, I guess you could say, is this classical modality.
Okay, very interesting. And you practiced most of them?
Well, you know, being educated here in the U.S., and I went to a school that actually emphasized learning 3 different types. And I was exposed to the 5-element. So I kind of consider myself to be a bit of a hybridist, actually, in terms of,
I like that.
you know, I integrate what I learn. And so you know, if traditionally in China, acupuncture was taught like in a familial sense. You know, you learn it from your grandfather or the local, you know, the local medicine man who, you know, there was a tradition, a lineage to it. Now, especially here in the West, especially in the U.S., those lineages, for the most part, don't really exist. You know, they've all been kind of systematized and categorized. So you learn what you learn at school, and then you use it. So yes, I've been exposed to all those, and I just continue to develop my own methods, if you will.
And how long have you been practicing acupuncture?
At this point, I've been practicing for about 11 years.
We're lucky today because Tim was able to bring in Max Miller, who's an artist, and he's a patient of Tim's. And so I wanted to sort of walk through what meeting somebody would have with you in the beginning. Here's our subject for the day, and he will be, Tim will do some acupuncture on him later. But, so tell me how you first found Tim and what the process was.
How I first found him, I had gone to acupuncture before, and Tim I found through a mutual friend, and I've gone to many different acupuncturists. I've gone in Chinatown, different places, and he's amazing. And then just stayed there. If something works, just stay there.
Yeah.
And he's a great healer. It's been a very good experience and very helpful.
Great. And can I ask you, would you be willing to share with the audience why you went to see him?
It was probably for my lower back
Okay.
and shoulders. Yeah.
And how often do you see him?
I'll see him when I have to alleviate a problem that I might have, and then I'll definitely see him at least once a month for like energy and just rejuvenating.
And how do you find the sessions? I mean, how effective are they?
They're amazing. So, and also he's in a city where everybody is rushed, or a world where everybody's rushed. Tim spends his time with you, and so an hour session is probably an hour and a half. And it's very, very thorough. Really helps you with a problem. Very specific, and it's been extremely good and helpful.
So you go to him with specific problems, specific areas.
And if I don't have a specific problem, then I'll go once a month just for
maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he's done the acupuncture, I know a lot of people are afraid of the needles. Is it painful?
It's not painful, but I mean, I'm afraid of needles, or had been afraid of needles. I think there's a point where, possibly where, if there's a point that's hurting and get that point, that might hurt, but it's not a, I think what happens is you locate the pain, and then it helps alleviate what the pain is.
Yeah, there's in China, there's a different viewpoint towards pain, and here in the U.S. it's like, no pain. Pain is bad. Nobody wants to experience pain, right? Pain bad. Give me a pill, give me a Tylenol, whatever. I don't want to feel it. In China, it's a little bit different, and there's a division there, especially with something like acupuncture or tuina or something. Like if you get a massage, there's like that good pain,
right.
It hurts so good kind of thing. And so in acupuncture, there's sensation, and then there's pain. Like if someone comes and they just sprain their ankle, they're feeling pain, right? So with the needles, you want to have the sensation that we're looking for is kind of a dull, achy pain, if you will, or a sensation, and it's kind of a deep, dull, achy feeling. And there's actually a term for that. It's called de-qi, D-E-Q-I, which means the arrival of qi. So the idea is that if you feel that dull, achy sensation, it means the qi's coming, it's bouncing up against the obstruction and opening things up so it can flow. And of course, there's blood, on a physiological level. It's all about getting blood into the area. Right. So it's part of this is educating the client as to, it's okay to feel some of these sensations that are not so comfortable, but it actually results in a positive effect. So, and wearing a hat during the treatment is also helpful.
Yeah.
But not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
But I think, going back to the pain, I think, in a way, I would say that's a fallacy, and also it's something. I particularly don't like needles to begin with, so the whole idea of going there or doing acupuncture is something. You have a certain problem that might be very painful, and then through doing this, it alleviates that problem and it goes away. So it's just, so when you're investigating that problem, then there's going to be a little pain because you're very specific. I mean, you find the point specifically what's going on. Sometimes it might take more than one session, but it definitely releases and starts to dissipate, and it's pretty amazing. And you can see those results very, 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 very quickly.
So normally, how a session would take place is, the person would arrive, and we would have a little consultation. what's your, in Chinese medical terminology, your chief complaint, what is it that you want to address today? And then, through the course of a brief interview, we decide or get some sense of what's the best approach. Do we want to go and just do a direct approach with, tight muscles, or is there a kind of underlying energetic aspect to it? Often with low back issues, you have that kind of sore, achy low back, and quite often it's associated with a sense of low energy, or some kind of an adrenal exhaustion type of a thing. In a situation like that, you want to do something that's a bit more nourishing. You don't want to go and have a real strong, hard treatment, because that will have a sense of further depleting the energy of the body. So that's kind of that's the main thing I need to ascertain originally. Is it an excess condition that needs to be released, like a tight muscle, or is it a deficient condition that needs to be nourished?
Okay, and do you find this out in the discussion phase or in the examination phase?
In the discussion, and then also taking the pulse too.
Okay.
So let's take your pulse and see what your pulses have to say.
Is there a reason you take their pulse?
Yes, for this reason. The pulse is fundamentally gives you a very clear picture of what's going on internally. And that's really the main reason for the pulse. You can get very complex with the pulse, and there are 12 pulses, and each one relates to an organ. There are different positions, which is very complex. You can get real specific that way. But fundamentally, you want to know, is this pulse too strong or too weak, and where? Yeah. So the location is also important. So let's check Max's pulse here. Max has a jumpy pulse. This is scintillating television watching someone take a pulse, right?
Right. This is.
If you could only see what I'm feeling. No, okay, so Max's pulse is a little choppy of quality.
On the right side.
And it's it's a little bit on the slow side, but I know you're an athlete, so quite often athletes have slower pulses, so that's not a big concern to me. And the other thing I look for is the depth of the pulse. If the pulse is on the surface, then quite often it will have to do with something having to do with the lungs. If it's deeper, then it has to do with the deeper organ, which usually indicates like a kidney type issue.
That's interesting.
The choppy quality is has more to do with like a stress. So there's some type of a kind of a stagnation there that's trying to work its way through. And that usually has to do with the liver, a liver quality, not necessarily a liver organ, just from a Chinese point of view, a liver quality. So probably, are we ready to?
Yeah, I think we'd like to, see how it works and see if we can get some interesting results.
Okay. So probably what we'll do with Max when we set up the table is do treatment on his back to harmonize the liver and kind of nourish the kidneys.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And we'll be right back. First you took his pulse. What are the other things you do when you first have a visit with someone?
Okay, one of the other diagnostic tools for Chinese diagnosis would be to take a look at the tongue. And so we'll do that.
What does the tongue tell you?
Many things, many things. Let's take a look and see what Max's tongue says. Okay, so with Max, we have a pale tongue. The color of the body is important. A pink color is very healthy. And then if you have red, that indicates heat. If you have pale, that indicates kind of an energy deficiency, a chi deficiency. And then sometimes the tongue can go into like kind of a gray look, and that's, going further into energy deficiency and illness, if you will. Another thing we can tell from Max's tongue, if you could, one more time, there's a bit of a coat, a white coat.
Right.
And so a white coat has to do with phlegm, So there's probably some phlegm going on with Max. In general, from my recollection, he doesn't really have a consistently display a phlegm on his tongue. So maybe there's something going on there. And then another interesting part of the tongue is the sublingual veins. You want to show us the under? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. And if the sublingual veins are engorged and blue, that indicates blood stagnation, mostly in the lower abdomen area.
Really?
So you can get some good...
I would think it would represent a lot of blood flow. But
Well, see, the reason why it's engorged, that's
Yeah.
the stagnation,
Okay.
right? Because there's backup.
this is
You know.
fascinating. We can all go home and
Check
out
our
our tongues.
check our sublingual veins, yeah.
Right.
And in particular, it's good with women around menstrual issues also. That's a good indicator of how to work. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and have Max lie face down.
And we're working now on Max's bad back problem.
Yeah, back and kind of low energy type stuff. Put this here, support. I'm just going to pull his shirt up here. Good, good. Okay, so I like to use, I like to use guide tubes, and you'll see the technique in a second. Some acupuncturists don't. It's just totally a matter of personal preference.
Are everybody's nerves in the same place?
That's a good question. Well, with slight variations, there's slight variations. So you have to kind of work the body that's in front of you, obviously.
Right.
So in terms of what we're going to do today, we have in acupuncture, and for those of you who saw the last time I was here, I was talking about Qigong, upper, middle, lower. In Chinese medicine, we have the upper, which would be the chest, heart and lungs. Then the middle area here is digestive organs, liver, stomach, spleen. And then the lower back has to do more with the kidney, and then obviously the intestines as well. So the way we find out where to hit the right segments to affect the organs has to do with just basically counting the spinal column.
Vertebrae.
The vertebrae, yeah. So you have the spinous process, which come off the back, and you start from T1. So we'll go ahead
And do some.
hit the lungs here. So I hit that. That's a lung point.
Okay. Max, did that hurt?
No.
And
Actually calming.
yeah, it has a calming effect. Next, we're going to hit the spleen, which has to do with that phlegm that we witnessed earlier when I saw the pulse had that kind of liver choppiness. Okay, here's the spleen point. So this is a classical technique that I learned where when you first insert the needle, you pull it out a little bit to kind of release whatever surface toxin may be there, or energy. It's kind of an energy thing. And then I spin the needle 9 times clockwise. Metaphysically, clockwise a clockwise spin brings energy into the area. The pulse was like indicating liver, a little liver stagnation. The tongue was more indicating spleen deficiency with this phlegm stuff.
Okay.
So phlegm can also create stagnation. So today we're going to, we're treating the spleen. Okay. So now I'm going to put a kidney point in, and there's a
There's so
kidney
much
point.
more to it than just putting a needle in.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
When I do the paraspinal needles, here's your erector spinae muscle group here. We always go at an angle, right? Obviously, because you don't want to be, you want to get into nice muscle. You don't want to be going deeper. And then here below L2 in the kidneys, you can actually go, it's safe to go vertical.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for
Okay, thank you.
walking us through how it's done. And Max, how are you feeling?
Good.
Is this something you would recommend to others?
Tim's an amazing healer. I think this is very short. It just gives you an idea of what it is.
Right.
But I think somebody should try and then see if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work for them, but then see what it is, and that's very, very helpful. Even just this lower one now, there's like a sensation moving around, so it's starting to get the energy moving around. But this is pretty abbreviated what we're doing, but it's. I would suggest someone would go see him. He's amazing.
Wonderful.
And one indicator that a person is starting to relax is you'll actually see their breathing shift.
Oh, really?
It will become slower and deeper. Like you can see how when Mac's breathing, his entire lower torso here is lifting up and down.
Right.
As opposed to quite often we get caught in that kind of upper chest breathing. Yeah,
Which is
so
not
that's
good.
a really good sign.
That's good.
And also, I'm in a place now that's not necessarily that comfortable, so to do that is pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think we can let him be free of the needles.
Sure.
Okay, and everyone at home, if you want to get in touch with Tim, you can get on to Kate's Holistic Healing, and Tim, Strategic.
Yeah, my website is strategichealing.org, and you can reach me and email Tim Chambers, timc@stratechehealing.org. And my phone number is also on my website or on Kate's website.
Okay.